to order.
Mr. Samuelson.
Here.
Feels
Mrs.
like it's been
Feinberg.
known.
Here.
Mrs. Labuda.
Here.
Ms. Vedder. Mr. Ruiz. Mrs. Geiger. Mrs. Edwards. Mr. Benson.
Here.
Mr. Sorensen.
Okay. Obviously Josh is not here for the moment, so we can ask him a little later if he has a report. Same thing with the attorney. We did have a presentation scheduled. We have decided to move that to next month. So we'll be having a discussion, Isaac and I will be having a discussion and seeing how we want to present that.
Just remember, he's got you on film now, so
I
you
know.
have to live up to that.
No, he knows. We have an understanding. It's all good. We had a great discussion yesterday, actually. Vacancy requests, short list this month. First one up is the Adult Care Center. Okay, County Sheriff, 1,500. Position vacated March 10th. Anything you want to put into here, Randy?
It's just with the opening up of the fourth
Okay.
unit,
Yep.
and that position is fulfilled, it's vacant based on that.
Okay, anybody have any questions? Can we have a motion, well, it's not a motion, but everybody all in favor?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Second one is Center for Workforce Development. These are all,
Geiger in.
okay, this is zero cost to the county. I believe these are Sullivan Renaissance interns. The funding comes from the Gary Foundation. Anybody have any questions about it? Okay, all in favor? Okay,
6-zip.
great.
Veteran.
Veteran.
That's next month.
Yep. Okay. We have resolutions. Number 1, set public hearing for CDBG, May 15, 2014 at 1:50.
Move it.
Public hearing, Kathy, second Jean. Any discussion on that? All in favor?
What's the,
I'm sorry.
what was the purpose
Where are we?
of setting this?
Oh, this
First
is what I
resolution.
wanted to ask you about.
Okay, so this is
Sorry,
discussion.
vacancy.
Ask your question.
Oh, go ahead, Kitty, you had a question.
I missed it.
Kathy, Jean.
The second whereas, can you explain why
Whereas.
we're doing that? I mean, what is the purpose
On which
of
motion?
this one with the REBG?
The
CDBG.
CDBG
It's a
grant,
community
the block grant? Right.
And I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
We're looking at.
The legal notice
We
is
do
right
it
there.
every year.
I'm just wondering if it's.
Sorensen in, 1135.
There's a maximum request for public housing and one for small business, one for micro enterprise. So if we're having a public hearing on 15th, is that to get input from the public on how they would utilize the funding? Because if that's the case, then we should probably notify the town supervisors that represent their municipalities, right? That there is a public hearing, because that would be the time to maybe have them come in and target a need that they have in their municipality, which I believe is really important to connect the funding. So does that make sense?
Yeah,
For public
this is the generic, we don't necessarily have any specific projects in mind for this, it keeps the door open for us, you have to have the public hearing to be able to apply. That's exactly the intent, is the public would tell the county what they think is a priority, that's what we would be listening to. And then we would develop plans potentially depending on the comments.
But if nobody came to the public hearing, would there be an outreach to the supervisors, the towns, so that they can develop some small business projects and?
Yeah, but we could certainly solicit from them if they have specific areas of concern or where they would like us to focus on, we
Would
can.
this be the time to tell them to come and voice their needs on May 15th?
Well, I think what we can do is, get the word out and, accept, formal ideas. We may not wanna wait till the 15th. They can certainly come to the 15th, but we'll solicit them before then.
And then planning would be the one that would prioritize where the funding is actually gonna be allocated.
It's not where it's allocated, it's what we apply for. Basically, we would come up with projects, and I guess we would run them by this committee and get authorization to apply for funds, just like, any other grant proposal.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if we make a priority, I'm sorry.
This is for the community development.
Yeah.
block
Yeah.
grant?
Yep.
Yeah, well, there's 3 different program areas that we can focus on. There's public infrastructure, water and sewer. There is
it's all right in here.
It's correct, I'm just stating.
Yeah.
And we could also apply for, to enhance our revolving loan funds. So that's another area that we could apply for. The agribusiness revolving loan fund was funded through the community development block grant. The micro enterprise, the Main Street business revolving loan funds were established through the county grant. So I think it's, we gotta make a distinction between town and village applicants versus the county. The county can apply, I think, for up to 600,000, is it this year?
No,
It's-
I think the caps that are in the, notice are the caps that were put for, government size.
Over 500,000,
Two and one.
2 and 1.
Okay.
So-
And that's out of a small pool, you know, it's a regional, pool, it's gonna be competitive, and I think, you know, regionally, the numbers in there too, it's not very large, so, we don't necessarily have to apply for the max.
Well, I'd like
And
to see,
in fact,
I'm sorry.
you know, it might be more competitive to make a smaller request.
Cause I'm just wondering if you know, if there could be, a discussion with the town supervisor, so they're aware of this. Only because, like Alan says, infrastructure, so for the county to pick an infrastructure project when maybe the towns and the outlying communities may have a need that hasn't been addressed up to, you know.
Well, I am going to the, town supervisors roundtable meeting on the 7th, which is.
Okay, so you'll
and I'll-
take that.
Yeah, and I'll bring it
Okay.
here.
Okay, any other? All in favor? Opposed?
8-zip.
Okay, number 2 is to amend resolution 4014.
I'll move it for discussion.
Right, second, Jean,
What was the-
is a small,
Was, the
There's a
year
year.
2013.
right.
Yeah.
It should have been 2014, it says 2013, it's just changing the date. You move it? I think it's already been moved, we're discussing it right
second.
now. Is there any other discussion on it? Okay.
Okay.
You got discussion?
Okay.
Okay,
No,
all
it
in
says
favor?
2014.
Any opposed?
8-zip.
Thank you.
Jonathan.
Oh.
You got one of these?
Oh, it's
Okay.
it's in the agenda package.
I got it.
It's in
yesterday.
here
the
already.
packet.
Oh, it's a
Oh,
revised,
okay.
okay.
Oh.
So I,
You emailed, all right, I haven't checked my.
okay,
Thank
so
you, Myra.
the next resolution is reconvey properties listed in previous owners. Motion to discuss.
Move it.
Kathy, Jean, okay. Ira has just passed out an amended list. So is there something that you need to tell us about it?
At the
Okay.
meeting this morning, when I gave the update and all the facts and figures
Right.
on the repurchase,
Yep.
that was inclusive of everything that's on the revised list, but
Okay.
this list had to be part of the agenda earlier, so it was incomplete. The 73 through 79 represent those that came in late.
Right.
Through today, although we went down this morning, we were waiting for somebody to try and clear a credit card, so there might eventually be another one, but we'll see about that. But anyway, this is an up-to-date list.
Okay, does anybody have any questions on this?
I just want to make sure I'm clear in my mind, because of the confusion that happened quote-unquote confusion that happened last year. There's still one more last chance saloon, and that is for people, if they missed every other deadline, the installment plan, the repurchase plan, they can still go to the auction and repurchase.
They can go to the auction.
They can make a bid.
on the
And
property.
make a bid, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
Okay, because remember
But you're
last
right
year-
as far as repurchase, because terms of sale mandate, that if it's the former owner who's going to the auction, they have to minimally pay the repurchase price, which includes the 5%.
Got it, okay, so that there's no confusion, anybody,
So it's been,
yeah, thanks.
No, I'm glad to see during the this repurchase program that people are able to purchase
Yeah.
their properties back, so.
yeah, that's why we have it.
Any other questions? Okay, all in favor?
8-zip.
Opposed? Number 4, renew facilities agreement with Time Warner Cable. Is Lauren here?
Yes, he's here.
Okay.
Moved by
Previous 5-year
I move
facilities
it for
agreement.
discussion.
Thank you, Kitty. Second.
Thanks.
Jean.
Gene,
Okay, sorry.
go ahead, I'm sorry, I apologize.
What did I just miss?
You just missed that we didn't bring it
We
part of
can't
the
hear you,
discussion.
you stand up and
All
speak
right.
loud.
Robert's rule of order.
Okay, previous facilities agreement from 2008 to 2012 expired on December 31st of 2012, was extended by resolution. Extended by resolution in March of 2013 to allow us an additional year to do some restructuring and negotiation with Time Warner, to assist in, or an attempt to lower costs, which we have done. This new agreement poses a savings of $72,000 plus per year over our previous agreement, total of $360,000 over the life of the contract.
Did you do the negotiation?
Yes, I did.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
If I could ask a question,
Mhm.
with what's going on with Time Warner, wasn't it, purchased by another company?
Comcast?
Yeah.
I don't know, do we know
And how
this,
does this
where that
impact
is?
on that?
It won't have any, they're gonna still, regionally, they're still going to operate as independent companies. It's not supposed to impact the local customer base.
So,
They're under one mega umbrella,
Right.
but they're still operating independently regionally.
So this
has
negotiation will
absolutely-
stand no matter
Oh, it's-
what?
Yeah, it absolutely stands. Once it's signed, it's signed.
I just, the network itself, is this typical cost? I mean, I know that they're the only game in town, like it says.
That
Typical
is,
for other regions, and
it depends on where you are and what company's providing the service.
so because we don't have.
Because we don't have competition, we're kind of stuck. And that was the basis for the negotiation, was the fact that you are the only game in town. We were asked by this body to assist in reducing costs overall for budgetary purposes during the 2013 budget prep process. And when they came back to the table initially with no reduction, that's what took the amount of time to get to this point today, because we had to play hardball, if you will. So.
Any other questions or discussion?
I'm just curious if you could, help me out, because I was asked by one of the members of the Liberty Town Board regarding their concerns about their franchises since Time Warner's been taken over by a bigger group. So you're saying regionally that would apply to Liberty also? I
It
would-
should.
Okay,
I mean, I can't speak to what agreements they have with, or the service that's being provided to another entity, but it should not regionally impact them.
okay, well, thanks.
Each township makes its own agreement.
Well, they
No,
had an
correct,
agreement
but
and
as-
they were
but the
concerned
company
about.
umbrella as a whole is where the question's coming from, and it's,
As far as we know, nothing should change for our purposes.
For any purposes within the county, so
Mhm.
in the townships that have agreements with Time Warner.
That's the way it appears, correct.
Thank you.
All in favor? Opposed?
Mine's it.
thank you.
Number 5, authorize execution of agreements
Motion.
with municipalities.
Second.
Jean, second, Kathy. The cleanup initiative, any questions, concerns? All in favor?
Wait,
What, Cora?
Sorry,
Ed's behind you.
this is based on what the tonnage from the previous year, that's how it.
The year we closed, the end of 2009, I believe the tonnages represented there were an average of the years. I believe it was 2004 through 2009, what the towns had brought in and divided out. So it was a 4 or 5 year previous.
And I got a call and a complaint from one of my supervisors, but I said that it cost the county $50,000. She said we've lowered the tonnage, and I said we haven't in a couple of years, is that correct?
Yeah, we
And I
lowered
mean-
it after
Right.
we,
Closed
it
the
used to be,
landfill.
Right, and
once we
that's-
closed the landfill,
I mean,
which
we
was
could give
two-
you more tonnage if you wanna spend $100,000, which I don't think anybody on this table does at this
Well,
point, so
I don't
we
think
have
the
to.
tonnage has changed in the last 3 years.
No, it
Yeah,
has
but
not since
that's,
we closed the landfill.
her complaint was she wanted to go back to, which they got more.
Yeah, but that's when we had
Tell
the
her to give us the
Tell her
landfill,
that.
now
Tell her
we
to give
have
us
to
the money
pay
to
to
open the
ship it out.
landfill, we're good to go.
Okay. Any other discussion on the,
Well, one other question.
Kitty?
In the past, we dealt with the tonnage. I'm not begrudging and going back to before the landfill when it was open. But let's make believe you're doing this twice a year, okay? And I'm allowed 5 tons a year in the spring and 5 tons a year in the fall. Can I do it once at my town and have the 10 tons?
We don't dictate when they wanna do it or anything else like that. We give the town a tonnage total.
Right.
They could do it
whatever
over
they
two,
want.
they could do it one, they could do five, if that's really what they wanted to do.
Okay,
So,
but the
yeah.
tonnage is the tonnage
The
per
tonnage
year.
is the tonnage, correct.
Per
Yep.
year, okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor? Opposed?
9-0.
Thank you. Award contract for Sun King Incorporated for removal of recycling e-scrap. Motion?
Motion.
Jean, second. Alan? Any discussion on this? Kara?
For the public record, I'm going to state that there are still discrepancies in the law. For example, when the fee schedule allows for certain above 15 units to have the same amount, and I've gotten complaints from people in different parts of my district citing that as something, so I hope that we do reinstate the solid waste fee task force to address what's been sort of year-on-year inequities.
Excuse me,
I agree with you, but I think you're one resolution.
We're
Yeah,
different
this is-
resolutions.
Yeah.
I apologize.
This is for taking
We forgive
TVs
you.
off and
This is,
all
yeah,
that stuff like that.
Like the
batteries,
scrap.
TVs, electronics.
I'm all for that.
Okay, good. All in favor?
All in favor? Any opposed?
9-0.
Okay. Number 7, accept recommendations of the Sullivan County Solid Waste Recycling Grievance Committee. Motion?
Motion.
Jean, second. Cora? Question, Cora?
Now
Do
you
I
are.
repeat? Can you roll back the tape?
Did you want to say, mention again now?
This is a recommendation that we reinstate the solid waste task force to look at inequities in the law. We got to a certain point with the last task force and we didn't make it to the 100-yard line, and that meant that basically the law still has these inequities, and I still get complaints from constituents saying, why is it this way? So I hope that we won't be having the same conversation this time
Well, I
next
think
year.
they made their recommendations.
They made their recommendations, and some people in this legislature voted their recommendations down. So I don't know why you'd wanna relive that nightmare again, but, if you wanna do things differently, then, let me know how you wanna move forward.
What's that?
Yeah,
I think you're right.
It was the access.
the access fee, right,
No.
no.
I think what Cora's referring to is something different.
Okay.
So why don't you guys discuss
Okay.
what that is specifically, and maybe you can convene
So
again
then maybe
for
we need to
So maybe
table
I
an
was-
issue.
No.
No, no,
Th-
this
this
is
is-
a separate conversation, this is.
All right.
This is the next resolution. No.
Okay.
Hey,
So all in favor to accept? Okay, thank you.
9-0.
Last resolution, urge New York State government to enact legislation to delay the effective date of Nonprofit Revitalization Act of 2013. Motion,
Jonathan,
Jonathan,
Cindy.
second. Cindy, are you seconding? Okay, any questions?
I just had a question.
Yeah.
And a question, okay.
I'm not really sure why we would do this, because if you look at it, the act was signed into law December of 13 to take effect July of 14, and the act will provide nonprofits to amend their bylaws to adopt or amend conflict of interest policies and require directors, officers, key employees, and committee members to submit conflicts of interest statements. So I guess my feeling is that, I think we all recognize the value of nonprofits, as vital, the county in general. But, what authority do we have to say that, the law shouldn't take effect when it's addressing something that I believe, if you're addressing conflict of interest, it's in the best interest of the public. And then this is going to Governor Cuomo and Bonasek, so I don't know how we fit into this, really.
Jonathan?
It's a good thing. I think it's.
If you were here for the presentation, you would have heard that it is a good thing and it's a good law. What the rub is for the smaller nonprofits is they're required to have to change sometimes their constitution, their bylaws, and their certificate with the state, which sometimes takes in excess of 6 months.
But it came into
So
effect in December.
It was voted in at the very end of December, and they're not able to comply with the timetable, which means they would lose their grant funding, for that stuff. So it's not about the validity of the law, it's an excellent step in the right direction, it's just, they did not give the groups enough time to comply with all the various.
Yeah, I
So I
don't
vote
feel
no.
comfortable with- yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So the purpose of the delay is to allow the nonprofits to get in compliance?
Yeah.
And if we're looking at until July, so we do have a timeline,
Mhm.
delay it until January,
Well, it started in
instead of
December
July.
already.
Okay, thank you.
Give them
Okay.
6 months.
All in favor? Opposed?
7-2 Geiger Edwards.
Okay, that's the end of our resolutions, I believe. No handouts or anything? Okay.
No.
Public comment?
You were gonna ask, I'm sorry, you, Josh?
Oh,
had
yeah,
anything?
Josh, did you have
Okay.
anything? Sam, did you have anything? Okay. No public comment? Motion to adjourn?
So moved?
Jonathan.
Kathy.
Second, everybody.
Jonathan, Kathy.
All right, thank you.